Another primitive specimen acquired, Supreme Director Vorex, announced Science Officer Tarix, her tentacles quivering with what passed for excitement among our species. This one was harvesting vegetation on the outskirts of their settlement. Minimal resistance. Standard memory suppression deployed. I gazed through the observation panel at our newest acquisition. The human lay unconscious on the examination table, restraints securing its limbs, though they were hardly necessary at this stage. It looked unremarkable. Bipedal. Soft exterior. No natural defenses beyond the primitive coverings it had wrapped around itself. Excellent. What makes this one special? I asked, mandibles clicking with mild interest. We had collected 17 humans over the past solar rotation. Each proved disappointing in various ways. Too fragile. Too emotional. Too useless. Tarix consulted her data pad. Preliminary scans show unusually high neural activity and adaptation capacity. And this one has a name our translators can process. They call him Garrett Voss. Garrett Voss, I repeated, the strange sounds feeling foreign against my speech organs. Begin the standard testing protocol. I want results by the next cycle. Yes, Supreme Director. I turned away, already losing interest. Another specimen. Another disappointment. The High Council demanded results, but what could these soft, fragile creatures possibly offer our glorious Zinthar Empire? How spectacularly wrong I was about to be. He did what? I roared 3 cycles later, my exoskeleton flushing crimson with rage. Lieutenant Krozak cowered before me, his defensive plates partially extended in instinctive fear. Escaped, Supreme Director. The human, he rewired the containment field using parts from the nutrition dispenser. That's impossible. Those systems aren't compatible. That's what Chief Engineer Drux said too, before the human knocked him unconscious with the same nutrition dispenser. I paced the command deck, my claws clicking against the metallic floor. How many security protocols did this primitive creature bypass? Krozak's eye stalks drooped even lower. 17, Supreme Director. 17? We have the most advanced security systems in 3 galactic quadrants. Yes, Supreme Director. The human also left a message. My inner eyelids narrowed. Show me. The lieutenant activated his comm device. A crude series of symbols appeared on the main view screen. Human script, translated by our systems. Thanks for the hospitality. Your ship design is fascinating but inefficient. I made some improvements while leaving. You might notice them soon. By the way, your nutrition packets taste terrible. Garrett. Improvements? What improvements? I demanded. As if answering my question, the ship's lights flickered. The main engine emitted a low, unfamiliar hum. Unknown, Supreme Director, replied Krozak. But engineering reports our fuel efficiency has mysteriously increased by 27%. My rage momentarily gave way to bewilderment. He improved our engines while escaping? It appears so. And he, also took a shuttle. I slammed my appendage onto the command console. Find him. Now, the human proved elusive. For 6 full cycles, our most skilled trackers pursued the stolen shuttle's energy signature across the quadrant. Just as they would close in, the signature would vanish, only to reappear in an impossible location. It defies the laws of physics, complained head tracker Zelva during one particularly frustrating briefing. The shuttle cannot possibly achieve those speeds or trajectories. Yet our sensors confirm it's the same vessel. I had stopped questioning the impossible. This human, this Garrett Voss, had become my personal obsession. Each report of his impossible feats only intensified my determination to recapture him. Then the rumors began. Whispers from trading outposts, stories from frontier colonies, a human in a modified Zinthar shuttle visiting worlds where our mining operations extracted resources from indigenous populations. Wherever he went, equipment mysteriously improved. Oppressed workers suddenly found ways to resist. And always he vanished before our forces arrived. Supreme Director, Tarex interrupted my thoughts one cycle. We have received a transmission. It's from the human. My head snapped up. Put it through. The view screen activated, revealing the human's face. He appeared calm, almost amused. Behind him, I could see components of Xinthar technology, modified beyond recognition. "Hello, Supreme Director Vorex," said Garrett Voss with a casual nod. "Hope you don't mind me calling. I figured we should chat, seeing as how we have been playing this cat and mouse game for weeks now. You will return to our custody immediately," I demanded, mandibles flaring. The human laughed. Actually laughed. "Yeah, that's not happening. Look, I have been visiting your little mining operations around the sector. Gotta say, I'm not impressed with your business model. Enslaving less advanced species? Taking their resources? Pretty unoriginal villain stuff. How dare you? The Xinthar Empire has stood for 12 millennia. About that, you might want to check your central financial network. Specifically, the off-book accounts your High Council maintains in the Proxima Trading Hub. My blood ran cold. Those accounts were known to only the highest echelons of our government. What have you done? Garrett smiled. Not the fearful grimace humans made when terrified, but a confident, predatory smile. I have redistributed the wealth, let's say. Turns out your encryption was even worse than your shuttle design. Oh, and I sent proof of your government's corruption to every planetary leader in your empire. Should be hitting their communication channels right about now. On cue, emergency alerts began flooding our command center. You have doomed yourself, I hissed. Every Xinthar force will hunt you down. About those forces, Garrett said, checking something off screen. They might be busy dealing with the rebellions I have helped organize on your mining worlds. Turns out when you show oppressed people how to disable Xinthar tech and arm themselves, they are pretty motivated to fight back. I could barely process what I was hearing. You are just one primitive human. How could you possibly orchestrate all this? I'm a farmer, Garrett replied with a shrug. Farmers fix things. We adapt. We observe. When something doesn't work, we modify it until it does. Your mistake was thinking I was primitive just because I don't have fancy space tech. But here's the thing about humans we learn. So fast. Warning signals blared throughout the command center. Reports of uprisings flooded in from a dozen worlds simultaneously. What do you want? I finally asked, my voice barely audible over the chaos. In a meeting. Just you and me. Neutral territory. The abandoned space station orbiting Talax VI. Come alone. And if I refuse? Garrett leaned closer to the camera. Then I release the command codes for your planet's orbital defense systems. The ones I extracted from your ship's database before I left. The ones I have already reprogrammed. The transmission ended. Supreme Director? Tarex's voice seemed distant. What are your orders? I stared at the blank screen. Prepare my personal shuttle. The abandoned station loomed before me, a relic from a forgotten civilization. My shuttle's sensors detected only one life form inside. A human. Against all protocol and the desperate pleas of my officers, I went alone. Pride, perhaps, or maybe the growing, unsettling realization that this human had outmaneuvered the entire might of the Xinthar Empire, the docking procedure completed automatically. The station's previously defunct systems now hummed with power. I stepped from my shuttle, weapon drawn, into the cavernous docking bay. Welcome, Supreme Director. Garrett's voice echoed through the chamber. Please follow the illuminated path, and you can leave the weapon. It won't work in here anyway. I glanced down at my disruptor pistol. The power indicator showed null charge. Impossible. I had checked it before departing. With a snarl, I holstered the useless weapon and followed the trail of lights along the floor. The path led to what once must have been a command center. Now it was transformed. Zinthar technology meshed with human innovations and salvaged station equipment created a hybrid control room that put our finest installations to shame. In the center stood Garrett Voss. Up close he appeared even more unremarkable. No armor, no weapons, just a simple covering and those dexterous appendages called hands. "Thanks for coming," he said, gesturing to a chair that was clearly modified to accommodate Zinthar physiology. "Have a seat." "I prefer to stand," I replied coldly. "Suit yourself." He leaned against a console. "So, I imagine you are wondering how a primitive human farmer managed all this." "The thought has occurred." Garrett smiled. "You know what the funny thing is? On Earth, I'm nothing special. Just a guy who grows food and fixes old machinery. But out here?" He gestured expansively. "Out here, I'm practically a super genius." "You have made your point. What do you want? Revenge?" "Dunge." "Revenge?" He seemed genuinely surprised. "For what? The abduction? The experiments?" "Nah, that was just rude, not personal." "Then what?" "I want you to go home and deliver a message to your High Council. Humanity is off limits. In fact, every developing species is off limits." I laughed, a harsh, clicking sound. "And why would the mighty Zinthar Empire agree to such terms?" "Because of what I have done in just 6 of your cycles." His expression hardened. "Imagine what 100 humans could do. 1,000. We adapt. We learn your tech faster than you developed it. We improve it in ways you never considered. Are you threatening us with invasion? Your planet is primitive. You have barely achieved basic space travel." "We don't need to invade," Garrett said. "I have already planted self-replicating improvement protocols in every major Zinthar system. Your ships, your weapons, your communications, they will all continue getting better, more efficient, until the day you violate our agreement. Then they will stop working altogether." "That's not possible," I whispered, though doubt gnawed at me. Said the advanced alien to the primitive human who crashed your entire empire in less than 2 months. He pushed away from the console and approached me. "Here's the deal, Vorex. You leave developing species alone. All of them. In return, I don't share the blueprint for this station with my fellow humans." "What's so special about this station?" "It's a prototype," Garrett explained, "capable of generating wormholes to any point in the galaxy. Instantaneous travel. No more limited by your thruster technology. I figured it out by combining your theoretical physics database with the station's original purpose." My exoskeleton paled. The implications were staggering. Such technology would make humans an unstoppable force in the galaxy. "Why show me this? Why not keep it secret?" "Because I'm a farmer, not a conqueror." He shrugged. "I don't want war. I want to go home and grow my crops in peace, knowing no other humans will be snatched from their beds for your experiments." "The High Council will never agree." "They already have." Garrett held up a data pad displaying the official Zinthar encryption. "While we have been talking, your leaders have received evidence of what I can do, what I have already done, and what I'm prepared to do if provoked further. They have signed the agreement." I stared at the document, recognizing the digital signatures of the High Council members. It was impossible. Inconceivable. Yet there it was. "You have accomplished all this just to be left alone?" I couldn't comprehend it. "Pretty much." He handed me a small device. "This will get you home safely. It also contains all the improvements I have made to your technology. Consider it a parting gift." "And what will you do now, Garrett Voss?" He smiled, that unsettling human expression that I was beginning to recognize as dangerous. "I'm going home. Got crops to tend. But I will keep an eye on you all." Turns from a distance. As I turned to leave, a final, disturbing thought occurred to me. "You said on Earth you are nothing special. What are your exceptional humans like?" Garrett laughed. "Pray you never find out." When I returned to the Zinthar homeworld, everything had changed. The High Council, those ancient, immovable paragons of our civilization, greeted me with unprecedented humility. They had seen what I had seen. A single human farmer had brought our empire to its knees. The treaty must be honored, declared Grand Counselor Nexus, his ancient form trembling slightly. All operations involving pre-interstellar species are to cease immediately. No one objected. No one dared. Later, as I reviewed the improvements Garrett had gifted us, my communication officer brought an urgent message. Supreme Director, we have detected a transmission from Earth. It's being broadcast on all frequencies, in all languages. Show me, I ordered. The message was simple. 5 words that sent shivers through my carapace. Garrett got home. He told us. The implications were clear. Humanity now knew they were not alone. And worse, they knew what they were capable of. I stared at the stars through the command center viewport. Somewhere out there, a human farmer had returned to tending his crops, having casually humbled one of the galaxy's oldest empires. And I wondered, with growing dread, what would happen when the rest of humanity decided to join him among the stars. 2 planetary rotations after the transmission from Earth, I found myself in an unprecedented position. The once mighty Zinthar Empire, conquerors of 17 star systems and terror of the Orion Arm, had assembled its greatest minds for one singular purpose: to understand humans. They have no natural defenses, droned Professor Kutz, his decrepit form hunched over the holographic display. No claws, no venom, minimal physical strength compared to most sentient species. Yet one of them dismantled our entire imperial structure in less than half a revolution, countered Admiral Zex, her battle scars prominent under the harsh light. There must be something we missed. I watched the debate with growing irritation. The finest minds in our empire, and they still failed to grasp what made Garrett Voss so dangerous. You are all approaching this incorrectly, I interrupted, silencing the chamber. The human strength wasn't physical. It wasn't even technological. It was adaptability. Grand Counselor Nexus fixed his compound eyes on me. Explain, Supreme Director. While we spent millennia perfecting our current systems, becoming specialists in established technologies, humans spent their evolution as generalists. They don't excel at any one thing. They simply learn. Quickly. Relentlessly. Surely that's an exaggeration, scoffed Science Director Palov. No species can. The chamber doors hissed open, cutting off Palov's objection. Lieutenant Krozak rushed in, his exoskeleton pale with stress. Supreme Director. We have detected multiple unidentified vessels entering our home system. Zinthar vessels? Asked Admiral Zex. No, Admiral. Unknown configuration. But they are broadcasting on all frequencies. In perfect Zinthar, my blood ran cold. What's the message? Just 3 words, Supreme Director Garrett sent us. The council chamber erupted into chaos. Admiral Zex barked orders into her communicator, scrambling our defense fleet. Science Director Palov frantically analyzed the incoming sensor data. Grand Counselor Nexus simply sat, his ancient frame suddenly looking even more brittle. How many vessels? I demanded. 7, Supreme Director, replied Krozak. Small by our standards. Each approximately the size of a standard scout ship. 7 ships. A pitiful force against our homeworld defenses. Yet the fear in the chamber was palpable. Open a communication channel, I ordered. Main view screen. The screen flickered to life, revealing a human female. Her skin was darker than Garrett's, her head adorned with tightly coiled hair. Behind her stood several other humans, each monitoring different control stations that appeared to be a hodgepodge of technologies. This is Supreme Director Vorex of the Zinthar Empire. Identify yourselves. The humans smiled. That same unsettling expression Garrett had used. Hello, Director. I'm Captain Amara Jackson of the Earth vessel Prometheus. My associates and I are here on a diplomatic mission. Diplomatic? Admiral Zex hissed from beside me. They are invading our home system. Captain Jackson raised an eyebrow. If we were invading, Admiral, we wouldn't announce ourselves. And there would be considerably more of us. How did you find our homeworld? I asked. Its coordinates are classified at the highest level. Garrett provided them, along with quite a detailed report on your civilization. Fascinating reading. Your technological development pattern is unique among spacefaring species we have studied so far. The casual way she mentioned species we have studied sent a wave of murmurs through the chamber. What do you want, Captain Jackson? To establish formal diplomatic relations. Your treaty with Garrett was a good start, but our government feels something more official is warranted. Plus, she added with another smile, we brought gifts. Against Admiral Zex's vehement objections, we agreed to meet the human delegation at our orbital diplomatic station. Security protocols dictated a thorough scan of their vessel and the 7 humans who disembarked. No weapons detected, reported Security Chief Drox, sounding disappointed. Though they are carrying numerous electronic devices of unknown purpose. The tools, not weapons, Captain Jackson explained as she approached our delegation. We are engineers, scientists, and diplomats. You are not soldiers. I studied the humans closely. They appeared as physically unremarkable as Garrett, yet each moved with the same confident purpose. You mentioned gifts, I said, mandibles clicking with cautious interest. Yes. Jackson nodded to a tall human male, who stepped forward carrying a small metallic cube. This contains the schematics for an atmospheric purification system. We noticed your world is suffering from industrial pollution in the Northern Hemisphere. Science Director Pavlov's eye stalks quivered with excitement as he accepted the cube. How did you know about our atmospheric degradation? That information is not public. Another human, this one with facial hair and lighter skin, chuckled. We looked. With telescopes. It's pretty obvious from orbit. But why give us this technology? I asked. Garrett Voss threatened our empire into submission. Now you offer gifts? Captain Jackson's expression became serious. Garrett acted alone, driven by his immediate situation. We represent Earth's government. We prefer cooperation to coercion when possible. And when not possible? Admiral Zex challenged. Jackson met the Admiral's compound gaze without flinching. Then we can be quite creative. But let's focus on the positive possibilities, shall we? The diplomatic meeting lasted through 6 meal cycles. Unlike our previous perceptions of humans as simple and direct, these diplomats proved maddeningly complex. They offered technological exchanges, trade agreements, and cultural sharing programs. Yet beneath every generous proposal lay subtle reminders of what Garrett Voss had accomplished single-handedly. During a brief recess, I cornered Jackson in the observation lounge. The human stood before the viewport, gazing at my homeworld below. Beautiful planet, she remarked without turning. The ring system is particularly striking. I will be direct, Captain, I said. Your diplomatic language is impressive, but what does humanity really want from the Zinthar Empire? She turned, her expression thoughtful. The insurance. Against what? Extinction. Jackson gestured toward the stars visible beyond my world. The universe is vast and apparently full of advanced civilizations like yours, some, no doubt, less ethical than the Zinthar. We need allies, knowledge, and yes, a reputation. A reputation. Her lips curved in that unsettling human smile. Garrett showed the galaxy what one human farmer could do when provoked. Imagine the impact of that story spreading. Don't mess with humans. Remember what happened to the Zinthar? My exoskeleton flushed with indignation. You are using us as an example. We are using you as a beginning, she corrected. The Zinthar Empire has technology, resources, and 12 millennia of cosmic knowledge. We have adaptability, innovation, and a desperate desire to survive in a universe we have only just discovered is inhabited. Together we could be formidable. And if we refuse this partnership, Jackson shrugged, then we will find other allies. But consider this, would you rather have humans working with you or against you? The question hung in the recycled air between us. 3 solar cycles later, the Grand Council ratified the Earth-Synthar Cooperation Treaty. The vote wasn't unanimous. Admiral Zex and her military faction registered strong objections, but the majority recognized the inevitable. Humanity was coming to the galactic stage, ready or not. Better to guide them than oppose them. The treaty's public provisions included technology exchanges, scientific cooperation, and mutual defense agreements. The classified addendums detailed the gradual dissolution of our forced labor operations and reparations to the species we had exploited. As Supreme Director, I was assigned as primary liaison to the human diplomatic contingent. A punishment or honor, I wasn't sure which. "You seem troubled, Director Vorex," observed Jackson during one of our cultural exchange sessions. We sat in my private chambers, the human awkwardly perched on seating designed for Zinthar physiology. "I am contemplating the speed of change," I admitted. "In less than 1 revolution around our star, your species has gone from an unknown primitive curiosity to our most significant ally. Change is what humans do best," she replied, sipping the nutrient solution our scientists had formulated for human consumption. She grimaced at the taste but continued drinking out of politeness. "We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us constantly. Adapt or die." Your Garrett Voss said something similar. Jackson laughed. Garrett. Still can't believe a corn farmer from Nebraska brought an empire to its knees. He's become something of a folk hero back home. And where is he now? Our intelligence services have been unable to locate him. Back on his farm growing food. Refused all government positions and honors. Said he had crops to tend. She leaned forward. "That's another thing about humans you should understand. We are not all the same. Some of us want power, some want knowledge, some just want to be left alone." "Which are you, Captain Jackson?" Her eyes, those strangely expressive, single-lens organs fixed on mine. "I want to make sure humanity survives its first contact with the cosmos, whatever that takes." 1 full planetary revolution after the treaty signing, I stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Earth-Zinthar Joint Space Station. Below us orbited a blue-green world, the 3rd planet of an unremarkable yellow star. Earth, humanity's homeworld. Beside me stood not Captain Jackson but Garrett Voss himself. The human farmer had finally agreed to leave his crops long enough for this historic moment. "Never thought I'd see this," Garrett remarked, gazing down at his planet. "Zinthar ships in Earth orbit, and nobody's panicking. Your people have adapted to cosmic reality with remarkable speed," I observed. "That's humans for you. One day it's are we alone in the universe, the next, it's how do I apply for that job on Mars?" He chuckled. "Though I still can't get my neighbor Pete to believe I was actually abducted by aliens. Thinks I made the whole thing up." I turned my eye stalks toward him. "After everything that has transpired? The treaties? The technological exchanges?" Garrett shrugged. "Pete's not big on news, or reality, sometimes. He's convinced the whole alien thing is an elaborate government hoax. Fascinating. Even with overwhelming evidence, some humans refuse to adapt their thinking. Exception to every rule." Speaking of exceptions, Garrett gestured toward the approaching figure of Admiral Zex. "Looks like not everyone in your empire is happy with the new arrangement." The Admiral stomped toward us, her ceremonial armor clicking with each aggressive step. She stopped, performing the minimal required courtesy bow. "Supreme Director. The human delegation from their military division has arrived." "Thank you, Admiral. Please escort them to the reception area. We will join shortly." Zex's mandibles twitched with barely contained disdain as she glanced at Garrett. "As you command, Supreme Director." She turned sharply and marched away. "She really doesn't like me," Garrett observed. "You humiliated our military, exposed corruption in our government, and forced us to abandon centuries of imperial expansion. Of course she doesn't like you." "Fair point." We stood in silence for a moment, watching the blue world turn below us. "You know," Garrett finally said, "when you guys snatched me from my field, I was just trying to fix my tractor. Never imagined I'd end up changing the course of two civilizations." "Do you regret it?" He considered the question. "No, but sometimes I wonder if I did the right thing, showing humans what's possible out here. We can be unpredictable." "So we have noticed," I replied dryly. "Just last cycle, one of your exchange students reconfigured our atmospheric processors on Outpost Zeta 9 because, and I quote, it seemed more efficient this way." "Was it?" "Efficiency improved by 32%. Garrett laughed. "See? That's what you are in for. 1,000,000 humans, all thinking they can improve on 12,000 years of Zinthar engineering. A terrifying prospect." "You ain't seen nothing yet," Garrett said with a wink. "Wait until you meet our actual engineers. I'm just a guy who fixes tractors." As if on cue, my communication device chimed. "Supreme Director, the Earth delegation requests your presence. They wish to discuss their proposal for modified warp field dynamics." Garrett raised his eyebrows. "See what I mean?" I emitted the Zinthar equivalent of a sigh. "I'm beginning to understand why some of your fiction depicts alien invaders simply destroying human civilization rather than attempting to communicate with it." "Too much trouble?" Garrett asked with that dangerous smile. "Too much change, too quickly." I gestured toward the reception hall. "Shall we?" As we walked, I contemplated the strange journey from abductor to ally, from supreme power to reluctant partner. "One question, Garrett Voss," I said as we approached the diplomatic chamber. "In your Earth entertainment, when advanced aliens and humans interact, the humans always seem to win through some unlikely strategy or hidden advantage. I always found such stories unrealistic propaganda." "And now?" he prompted. I clicked my mandibles in what humans had learned to recognize as a Zinthar smile. "Now I understand they were documentaries, not fiction." Garrett's laughter echoed down the corridor as we entered the chamber where the future of our species would be negotiated by creatures who, until recently, we had considered mere specimens. As Supreme Director of the mighty Zinthar Empire, I had overseen the conquest of worlds and the subjugation of species. Now I stood as equal partner to beings who grew plants from dirt and had only recently discovered space travel. The universe, it seemed, had a peculiar sense of humor. And somewhere on a farm on that blue world below, a tractor waited for its owner to return to his fields, oblivious to the fact that its simple machinery had been the training ground for the being who had forever changed the course of galactic history.